the red dust of Epsilon. 7 never settled. It clung to everything. The prison walls, the mining equipment, the souls of the men who'd been forgotten here. Prisoner 804 drove his pickaxe into the rock face with mechanical precision. 15 years of the same motion had carved the routine into his muscles. Around him, other prisoners grunted and cursed in thin atmosphere, their breath visible in the cold morning air. He was a quiet man. The guards liked that about him. No trouble, no fights, no escape attempts. Just a broken prisoner who had accepted his fate. His gray jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. The number 804 faded and barely readable after so many years of washing. 804. "Loads ready," shouted Supervisor Minho from the transport area. The prisoner nodded and set down his tools. He walked with steady steps toward the cargo bay, his boots leaving prints in the red dust. The other prisoners moved aside for him without thinking. There was something about 804 that made people step back. Not from fear exactly. More like respect for a sleeping giant no one wanted to wake. In the mess hall that afternoon, he sat alone as always. The food was tasteless protein paste and recycled water, but he ate without complaint. A younger prisoner named Taehyun sat down across from him uninvited. "They say you've been here longer than anyone," Taehyun said. 15 years. Prisoner 804 continued eating, not looking up. "What did you do? To get sent here, I mean, does it matter?" His voice was rough from disuse. He spoke so rarely that some prisoners thought he was mute. "I guess not. We're all forgotten anyway." Taehyun picked at his food. "My sister probably thinks I'm dead." "Maybe that's better," 804 said quietly. Before Taehyun could respond, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then the alarms began to scream. "Lockdown. All prisoners returned to cells immediately." Guard Captain Unisil's voice cracked through the speakers, higher pitched than usual. Prisoners scrambled toward the cell blocks. Guards ran in the opposite direction, toward the main yard. 804 moved with the crowd, but his eyes tracked upward toward the reinforced ceiling. Something was happening. Something big. The prison shook, not like an earthquake. More like reality itself was being pushed aside to make room for something enormous. Dust fell from the ceiling in sheets. Somewhere, metal groaned under impossible stress. In his cell, 804 sat on his bunk and waited. Through the small window, he could see the sky, or what used to be the sky. Now there were shapes up there, massive shapes that blocked out the stars. They moved with grace despite their size, descending toward the prison like predators that had finally found their prey. The ships were unlike anything human engineers had built. They seemed alive, their surfaces pulsing with light that ran through channels like glowing blood through veins. The colors shifted constantly, blue to green to purple to shades that human eyes struggled to process. What in the... Guard Yunesio stood in the corridor, her rifle hanging forgotten at her side as she stared through the windows. The ships landed without sound. That was the strangest part. Something that massive should have made noise, should have shaken the ground. Instead, they simply settled onto the red dust as if they weighed nothing at all. Hatches opened, and they came out. Dragons. Real dragons. Not the cartoon version from children's stories. These were beings of terrible beauty and ancient power. They walked on 4 legs, each step deliberate and measured. Their scales reflected the light in ways that made them hard to look at directly. Wings folded against backs that could have carried buildings. And their eyes held intelligence that made human cleverness look like a child's first attempt at drawing. One dragon, its scales the color of liquid silver, moved toward the prison entrance. Behind it, others followed in perfect formation. They were searching for something, or someone. Prisoner 804 stood and walked to his cell door. His hands gripped the bars. For the first time in 15 years, something flickered in his eyes. Not hope, not fear, something older and deeper. Recognition. Down the corridor, the silver dragon moved through the prison. Guards fired warning shots that bounced harmlessly off its scales. It didn't even acknowledge them. It just kept searching, cell by cell, its massive head turning slowly as it examined each prisoner. When it reached Block 7, It stopped. Those ancient golden eyes locked onto cell 804. The dragon's head lowered in a bow that shook the foundation of the prison. Other dragons emerged from side corridors, all bowing in unison toward the man in the faded gray jumpsuit. A woman in strange diplomatic robes stepped forward, translating words that appeared directly in everyone's minds. Starborn, Oathkeeper, Dragon Friend, we have found you at last. Prisoner 800 foreclosed his eyes. His hands trembled on the bars. No, he whispered. Not anymore. But the dragons remained bowed, waiting for man they refused to forget. The silver dragon moved to the prison like a force of nature. Guards fired warning shots that bounced harmlessly off its scales. It didn't even flinch. Stand down. The warden's voice boomed over the speakers. Do not engage. The guards lowered their weapons slowly, hands shaking. Some of them were crying. Others just stared in blank shock. Nothing in their training had prepared them for this. The silver dragon stopped in front of cell 804. Its massive head tilted slightly, studying the man behind the bars with eyes that had seen centuries pass. Behind it, 5 more dragons entered the corridor. Their scales were different colors: deep blue, forest green, blood red, midnight black, and pure white. All of them bowed. The woman in diplomatic robes stepped forward. She wore clothing that seemed to shift colors like the dragon ships above. Her name tag read Ambassador Hygiene, but her eyes held the distant look of someone who had seen things beyond human understanding. Prisoner 804, she said formally, the Archon Velcross wishes to speak with you. The silver dragon's mouth didn't move, but words formed directly in everyone's minds. The sensation was strange, not hearing exactly, but knowing what was being communicated. Kong Dae-sung, protector of the border worlds, champion of the First Alliance, brother of our blood. We have searched for 40 years. We never stopped believing you lived. Dae-sung stood perfectly still in his cell. His face showed nothing, but his jaw was clenched tight. You have the wrong person. I'm just a prisoner. A criminal. Check your records. We need no records, Velcross responded. The dragon's mental voice was warm, like a father speaking to a lost son. We know you by your spirit, by the bond we once shared, by the oath that still binds us. Guard Captain Unesio found her courage. She stepped forward, rifle still lowered but her voice steady. This man is a convicted war criminal. He murdered civilians during the border wars. He was tried and sentenced legally. The white dragon growled, a sound that made the walls vibrate. Velcross raised one massive claw, and the other dragon fell silent. Your laws are built on lies. The Archon said simply, this man saved your species. He gave up everything so that humans and dragons would not destroy each other, and you repaid him with chains. That's impossible. Unesio protested. There's no record of dragons ever making contact with humanity, because those records were erased. A new voice spoke from behind the dragons. A man in an expensive suit pushed through, flanked by military escorts. He was young, maybe 30, with a confident posture of someone born into power. His identification badge marked him as Council Representative Ji-woo. I've been reviewing classified archives since your ships appeared. Ji-woo continued. Deep archives that even most officials don't know exist. There are fragments, deleted files that weren't quite deleted, references to something called the First Contact War and the Treaty of Twin Suns. He looked at Dae-sung with new eyes. You're real. The alliance was real, and someone buried it all. Velcross's scales brightened with approval. Finally, a human who seeks truth instead of convenient lies. But why? Unesio asked, her worldview crumbling. Why erase something that important? Money. Dae-sung spoke quietly. Power. Control. The dragons have biotechnology that makes our best science look primitive. An alliance meant sharing that technology freely. Some people wanted it exclusively. They wanted to own it, patent it, sell it. He moved closer to the bars. So they created a crisis. Framed me for atrocities I tried to prevent. Made the dragons into legends and myths. Anything to break the treaty. And you accepted the sentence. Velcross said, sadness flowing through his mental voice. You let them imprison you rather than defend yourself. If I'd fought back, it would have proven their lies. They claimed dragons had corrupted me, turned me against humanity. It would have started the war they wanted. Daesung's hands gripped the bars. Better one man in prison than billions dead in a war neither side could win. Silence filled the corridor. Even Ji-woo looked shaken. Noble, the young representative said. Stupid, but noble. The choice is past, Velcross interrupted. We come now because the choice is no longer relevant. The Void Collective has returned. They attack your colony worlds as we speak. You call their attacks spatial anomalies in your news broadcasts. Ji-woo's face went pale. The disappearances. 3 colonies in 2 months. Entire planets just gone. Not gone. Erased. Velcross's mental voice went cold. The void does not conquer. It unmakes. It turns matter, energy, even memory into nothing. 42 years ago, humans and dragons fought them together. We won because we were united. The dragon's golden eyes locked onto Daesung. Alone, both our species will fall. Together, we have a chance. But we need you, Starborn. We need the one who knows both our peoples. The one who already paid the price for peace. I'm not that person anymore, Daesung said quietly. 15 years and here broke something. Then we will help you remember who you are. Velcross straightened to full height. But first, your people must see the truth. We offer the trial of recognition. Ancient ritual. Sacred bond. Only one who has truly walked between our worlds can survive it. That ritual nearly killed me the first time. Daesung said, I know. Will you risk death again for them? Daesung looked past the dragons to where other prisoners watched from their cells. Taehyun, the young man from the mess hall, pressed against his bars with hope in his eyes. Hope that maybe the system that threw them all away could be wrong about other things too. Yes, Daesung said. I'll do it. They brought him to a conference room hastily cleared of guards. Human officials appeared on view screens, demanding explanations. Daesung sat in his prison jumpsuit, feeling like an artifact on display. The room was packed. Military generals, council members, corporate executives, and news reporters all squeezed in to witness this impossible meeting. Velcross had to remain outside because his bulk would not fit through the doorway, but his mental presence filled the space like invisible weight. Let's start simple, said Admiral Sungmin, a gray-haired woman with hard eyes. Who are you, really? Daesung took a breath. Speaking felt strange after so many years of silence. My name is Kong Daesung. 42 years ago, I was a deep space diplomat, first contact specialist. I was 28 years old when we met the dragons. Impossible, snapped Executive Director Huan from one of the screens. Our records show first deep space contact was only 20 years ago. The Kelvin species. Your records are incomplete. Ji-woo stepped forward, holding a data pad. I've been digging since the dragons arrived. Found deleted files, corrupted archives, gaps in the historical database that someone tried very hard to hide. He projected images onto the main screen. Fragments of documents, photographs so degraded they were barely visible, and file names that ended in long strings of deletion codes. Someone went through our entire digital history and erased every mention of dragons. But they missed pieces, small pieces. Ji-woo's hand shook slightly as he worked. There was a first contact war. There was a treaty of twin suns. And there was a man named Kong Daesung who signed it. Continue, Admiral Sungmin said to Daesung, her tone slightly softer. We found them by accident, Daesung said, his eyes distant with memory. Or they found us. Our colony ship encountered their territory. There was confusion, fear. Shots were fired on both sides. It escalated quickly into full conflict. Velcross's mental voice joined the conversation. We thought you were Void Scouts. You thought we were territorial predators. Both sides were wrong. Both sides lost thousands before communication was established. I was part of the diplomatic team sent to negotiate a ceasefire. Daesung continued. It took months. Dragons think differently than humans. Their culture is ancient. They measure time in centuries, not years. But we found common ground eventually. What changed? Asked a reporter named Soiree, her camera capturing everything. The Void Collective arrived. Daesung's voice went flat. They don't negotiate. They don't communicate. They just erase. Entire star systems disappeared. Planets, stations, ships, all gone. Not destroyed. Unmade. Returned to nothing. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dragon ships in the prison yard. Suddenly, humans and dragons had a bigger problem. An enemy that wanted to erase us both. So we formed an alliance. Real alliance. Shared technology, combined fleets, integrated battle tactics. And you led this alliance? Admiral Sungmin asked. I was one of the coordinators. The bridge between species. Daesung turned back to face them. Dragons have incredible biotech, living ships, weapons that grow and adapt, but they think in long-term strategies. Humans have short-term tactical brilliance, quick adaptation, innovation under pressure. Together, we were formidable. We held the line for 3 years, Velcross added. The Void pushed hard. Millions died on both sides. But we held, and eventually we pushed them back. Drove them into deep space beyond the galactic rim. That's a nice story, Executive Director Huan said coldly, but it doesn't explain why you're in prison for war crimes. Daesung's jaw tightened. Jiwoo stepped forward again. Because certain corporations wanted dragon biotechnology exclusively, patent it, control it, sell for trillions. Jiwoo pulled up more corrupted files. I found communication fragments between executives at Biostar Industries and council members. They're coded, but the meaning is clear. The alliance was bad for business. They needed a way to break the treaty without making humans look like the villains, Daesung said quietly. So they manufactured a crisis. A colony was attacked. Civilians died. It was actually a Void remnant group, but they blamed me, said I'd ordered the strike. Said I'd been corrupted by the dragons. And you let them convict you, Yoon Seo said from where she stood by the door. Why? Because fighting back would have proved their point. They'd say the dragons had turned me against my own people. They'd use it as justification to attack the dragons, start the war they wanted. Daesung looked at each official in turn. I just spent 3 years preventing extinction. I wasn't going to start an extinction war because I was afraid of prison. Velcross's mental voice carried profound sadness. We searched everywhere, every human world, every station. We knew you lived, could feel it, but your people hid you well, moved you from facility to facility, changed your identity, made you into just another number. Prisoner 804, Daesung said, for 15 years. Admiral Sungmin leaned forward. Let's say this is all true. Let's say there was conspiracy. Why come forward now? Why not stay hidden? Because the Void has returned, Velcross said simply, and they are stronger than before. They learned from their defeat, adapted. Your 3 missing colonies are their work. They will not stop until both our species are erased from existence. We can fight them, a young general said confidently. We have advanced weapons now, better ships. You will lose, Velcross said flatly. We tried to fight them alone since the alliance ended. We lost 4 dragon worlds. You are losing colony after colony. Separately we fail. Together we have a chance. But only if you trust us, Daesung added. And trust doesn't come from words. It comes from proof. The trial of recognition, Jiwoo said, having been briefed by the dragons. You'll attempt to bond with a dragon in front of witnesses. If he's lying, the bond will kill him, Velcross explained. If he's telling the truth, our minds will merge temporarily. Witnesses will see his memories directly, unfiltered, undeniable. Admiral Sungmin looked at Daesung for a long moment. And if you survive, if you prove everything you've said is true, what then? Then we save both our peoples. Daesung said simply, one more time. They assembled in the prison yard at dawn. Every screen across human space broadcast the event. Daesung stood in the center. facing a young dragon with scales like polished obsidian. "I am KY Shah," she said, her mental voice strong. "Daughter of Velcross. If you are truly starborn, our minds will merge. If you lie, the bond will kill you." "I know the stakes," Daesung replied quietly. The prison yard had been transformed into a ceremonial ground. Dragons stood in a circle around the perimeter, their scales glowing softly in the early light. Humans gathered behind barriers. Officials, guards, prisoners, reporters. Billions more watched on screens across human space. KYR Shah was younger than the other dragons, perhaps only a century old. Her obsidian scales reflected the rising sun like dark mirrors. Despite her youth, her presence commanded respect. She was fierce, proud, and deeply skeptical of this human who claimed to be her father's lost friend. "Many have pretended to be starborn over the years," she said, circling him slowly. "Humans who wanted power or favor with my people. The bond exposed them all as liars. Their minds shattered when they touched ours. I'm not pretending," Daesung said. "We shall see." Velcross stood among the other dragons, his silver scales dim with worry. "Daughter, be gentle. He is older now, weaker than he was. If he is truly who you claim, father, he will endure." KYR Shah lowered her massive head until her forehead almost touched Daesung's chest. Heat radiated from her scales like standing next to a furnace. "Are you ready, human?" Daesung closed his eyes. "Do it." KYR Shah's forehead pressed against him. The world exploded. It wasn't pain exactly. More like every nerve in his body firing at once. His consciousness slammed into something vast and alien and utterly different from human thought. Dragon minds didn't think in words or linear sequences. They thought in colors and temperatures, and instincts millions of years old. Daesung screamed, but he didn't pull away. The bond deepened. His memories began to flow like water breaking through a dam. And because the bond was public, broadcast through KYR Shah to every witness present and every screen showing the event, everyone saw what he had lived. They saw a younger Daesung, barely 30 years old, standing in a damaged ship. Around him, his diplomatic team lay dead. Through the viewport, a dragon vessel approached. This was first contact. This was the moment before everything changed. They saw him raise his hands in peace, even though he was terrified. Saw him learn the dragon language through painful telepathic lessons. Saw him spend months building trust between two species that had every reason to destroy each other. Then the void came. The witnesses gasped as they experienced Daesung's memories of the Void Collective. Planets didn't just explode. They simply stopped existing. One moment a world was there, full of life and cities and dreams. The next moment, empty space. Not even debris. Just nothing, as if the planet had never been. They saw Daesung working day and night to coordinate the alliance. Saw him bond with his first dragon partner, an ancient warrior named Talros. The bonding process nearly killed him then too, but he survived. And through that bond, humans and dragons learned to fight as one. They saw battles that defied comprehension. Dragon bioships carrying human strike teams into impossible situations. Humans providing tactical creativity, while dragons provided raw power and endurance. Victory after victory purchased with terrible losses. They saw the final battle at the edge of stars. Saw Daesung and Talros lead a desperate assault that drove the void back into deep space. Saw Talros die protecting a human colony. His last words a request that Daesung watch over his eggs. They saw peace. Brief, beautiful peace. Dragons and humans building a future together. Then the betrayal. Corporate executives in expensive suits meeting in shadowed rooms. Council members accepting bribes. Plans to frame Daesung for a colony massacre he'd tried to prevent. The manufactured trial with falsified evidence. His conviction. They saw him accept the sentence without defense. Saw him look at Velcross one last time and mentally send a simple message. Remember the oath. Protect them even from themselves. They saw 15 years of prison. The same day repeated endlessly. A hero reduced to a number. Forgotten by the species he'd saved. And through it all, they felt his emotions. The grief of losing Talros. the agony of accepting false guilt, the loneliness of silence, but also something else, an absolute, unshakable commitment to protecting both species no matter the cost to himself. HFY Shah pulled back suddenly. Dae-sung collapsed to his knees, gasping. Blood ran from his nose. His hand shook violently. "He is Starborn," HFY Shah announced, her mental voice ringing across the yard and through every broadcast. "He is Truth Speaker. He is Oath Keeper. Everything he claimed is real. Everything we were told was lies." Silence filled the prison yard. Then Tae-hyun, the young prisoner, began to clap. Slowly at first, then faster. Other prisoners joined him. Then guards. Then the officials. Within moments, the entire yard erupted in applause. On screens across human space, riots began. People poured into the streets demanding justice. Corporate headquarters were stormed. Council members tried to flee and were arrested at spaceports. Admiral Sung-min stepped forward, her face wet with tears. "General Kong Dae-sung, on behalf of humanity, I apologize. You are pardoned immediately and with full honors. Your rank is restored. Your name is cleared." Ji-woo approached with military uniform, new and crisp. "We prepared everything for your return to service, sir." Dae-sung remained on his knees, still shaking from the bond. "No," he whispered. "That man died in prison. I don't know who I am anymore." Velcross moved forward, his massive form blocking the sun. His mental voice was gentle, warm, fatherly. "Then discover yourself while saving us all. You need not be who you were. Be who we need now." HFY lowered her head in a formal bow. "I doubted you, Starborn. Forgive me. I would be honored to fight beside you." Dae-sung looked up at them, dragons and humans waiting for his answer. Above them, the stars shone in a sky that still held threats beyond imagination. He took the uniform from Ji-woo's hands. "One more time," he said quietly. "I'll do it one more time." The Joint Command Center buzzed with activity. Dragons and humans worked side by side, relearning old tactics, inventing new ones. Former prisoners volunteered in droves. They trusted the man who'd been one of them. Dae-sung stood before the tactical display, now wearing uniform that combined human and dragon elements. Beside him, HFY monitored fleet positions with her vast mental reach. Only 3 weeks had passed since the trial of recognition. 3 weeks to rebuild an alliance that took years to create the first time. But they had no choice. The void was coming faster than anyone expected. "Sir, we have a problem." Commander Bore, a stern woman who had once been a prison guard, approached with a data pad. She was one of many former guards who volunteered after learning the truth. Colony World Taeyong is reporting unusual readings at the edge of their system. Dae-sung studied the information. His blood went cold. That's a void signature. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, maybe less. Population? 3 million, half of them children. The command center went silent. Everyone knew what happened to void targets. Complete erasure. No survivors. No remains. Just empty space where a world used to be. "We can't evacuate 3 million people in 6 hours, Ji-woo said, now serving as civilian liaison. The transport ships would take days. "Then we fight." Dae-sung turned to face the room. "All available ships to Taeyong immediately. Dragons and humans both. This is what we've been training for." Velcross entered the command center, his massive form barely fitting through the reinforced doorway. "Our wings are ready, Starborn. But you know the truth. We failed every engagement with the Void these past years. They have adapted, evolved. They counter our bioweapons now. And they adapt to our conventional weapons within minutes." Admiral Sung-min added grimly. "Every battle we've lost proved that fighting them the old way doesn't work anymore." Dae-sung stared at the tactical display. Red markers showed Void forces approaching Taeyong. Blue markers showed their combined fleet rushing to intercept. The numbers were not in their favor. "Then we don't fight the old way," he said slowly. "Dragons are living ships. Humans are precision instruments. What if we stopped fighting side by side and started fighting as one organism?" HFY Shah's mental presence sharpened with interest. "Explain." Dragon carriers. Humans inside you, deploying during combat. When the Void adapt to dragon bioweapons, human teams engage with conventional arms. When they adapt to that, dragons shift to different attacks. Constant switching, never letting them lock onto one strategy. That's insane, Boari said. We've never tested it. We've never had a choice before. Daesung looked at KYR Shah. Will your people accept humans inside them during battle? It is intimate, vulnerable. A dragon's interior is a sacred space. KYR Shah's scales rippled with consideration. But Talros died protecting humans. If he trusted you with his life, I can trust your people with mine. I will carry the first team. Then we move now. Daesung began issuing orders. All strike teams to dragon partners. Load conventional weapons, plasma charges, and anything experimental we have. Admiral, coordinate the fleet. Keep reserve ships at distance in case this fails. The command center erupted into control chaos. Within 30 minutes, the fleet launched toward Taeyang. Daesung stood in a specially designed harness inside KYR Shah's back compartment. Around him, 5 other soldiers checked their weapons nervously. This was trust at its most basic level. Humans inside a dragon, completely dependent on her for survival. Comfortable. KYR Shah's mental voice held a hint of amusement. Not even slightly. Daesung replied, Good. Comfort is for after we win. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Taeyang system. The Void forces were already there. Dozens of them. They looked like holes torn in the fabric of space. Edges crackling with energy that hurt to look at directly. All wings, engage. Daesung commanded. Remember the pattern. Switch tactics every 30 seconds. Don't let them adapt. The battle began. Dragons dug toward the Void entities, their bioweapons firing streams of organic matter that dissolved space itself. The Void creatures absorbed the attacks, beginning to adapt. Then human teams deployed from the dragons' backs, firing conventional missiles and plasma charges. The Void hesitated. Their adaptation interrupted. It's working. Boare shouted over the communication channel. They can't counter both simultaneously. But the Void learned fast. A massive entity, larger than the others, targeted KYR Shah directly. Its attack was pure antimatter, designed to unmake anything it touched. Brace. KYR Shah warned as she rolled hard to avoid the blast. It clipped her left wing. Daesung felt her pain to their bond as scales burned away. Wing damaged, she reported, her mental voice strained. Cannot maintain altitude. Then we go on offense. Daesung made a split-second decision. Team, target that wound. Plant charges inside it while it's focused on adapting to our weapons. Sir, that's suicide, one soldier protested. It's the only way. KYR Shah, get us close. The dragon dove straight at the massive Void entity. Her pain screamed through the bond, but she didn't hesitate. At the last moment, she opened her back hatch. Daesung and his team jumped out, firing thruster packs toward the enemy. They planted explosive charges directly into the Void creature's wound, using its own antimatter against it. The entity tried to adapt, but the charges were already detonating. The explosion was massive. The Void creature imploded, collapsing into itself. The resulting vacuum pulled in 2 smaller entities, destroying them as well. Target destroyed. Velcross announced triumphantly. Continue the pattern. Switch and strike. The battle raged for 3 more hours. Losses were heavy. 2 dragons fell. 7 human ships were destroyed. But when dawn broke over Taeyang, the Void forces retreated for the first time in 40 years. 3 million people were saved. In the aftermath, Daesung stood on Taeyang's surface, surrounded by grateful colonists. Children ran up to touch his uniform. Adults wept with relief. KYR Shah landed beside him, her wounded wing already beginning to heal with dragon bioregeneration. We did it, wing brother. We did, he agreed. Velcross approached with Admiral Sungmin and Jiwoo. The Council wants to offer you a formal position, Ambassador General of the Human Dragon Alliance. You would lead both our militaries and diplomatic corps. Daesung looked at the people around him. former prisoners who had volunteered, guards who had learned the truth, dragons who had never given up searching, children who would grow up in a universe worth protecting. I accept on one condition. We build a memorial, not just for the fallen, but for everyone the system threw away, every prisoner wrongly convicted, every truth buried by convenient lies. We remember them all. Agreed. Admiral Sunmin said firmly. That evening they held a ceremony. Dragons and humans gathered together under alien stars. Velcross spoke for his people. Daesung spoke for his. The end.